gas and if this shit don't stop. Stack money, not friends, that's how we rock. No 9 to 5, no need to clock.
It's your boy, Cashmernosweater. I'm here with another reaction video. Today, we finna be reacting to what it's like. Well, what's the last week of death row for a prisoner look like? That's what we're finna watch. Y'all ready? Y'all like, subscribe, and let's get straight into it. Screen recording starting in 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Brutal,
outdated,
atrocious, archaic,
barbarian punishment.
I believe every state should have it.
A great idea.
It is silly to keep them alive and keep them fed, clothed.
You don't get to choose who lives and who dies.
There's many divisive topics that come up in a society's fabric of existence.
Facts.
Issues of gun rights, drug use, abortion, education. The list could go on forever. However, this is one particular issue that really has divided people down the middle in places like the United States. Support for the death penalty has been all over the place since it became a legal ability for a state to carry out such an act. People's support or opposition has shifted with time. Every now and then, the debate reignites, especially when someone is up for execution. Some of the reasons people support the death penalty include an eye for an eye mentality, saving taxpayer money, prisoners deserve it, they'll repeat the crime, or it sets an example. The validity of these claims is always debatable, but that doesn't change the facts. It still exists. It is still happening today around the world, and there's no clear-cut consensus on where people really stand on such a controversial subject. But what is it like for the person actually facing the punishment for the crime they did or potentially didn't commit? Facing death by execution. The thought of coming close to the end and being powerless to stop it is enough to give anyone a wide range of emotions that maybe aren't so easily defined. That's a feeling shared amongst the many prisoners who've faced and gone through capital punishment. So what is it really like for someone on the brink of death? A death so brutal, it's only awarded to the suspected or proven worst of the worst. Let's explore the last week on death row. It's important to note that this procedure can vary from place to place. Still, overall, the method of conducting capital punishment is pretty similar.
Niggas be hanging niggas still? I didn't know that. That's outrageous.
7 days until execution. The honest truth is that getting to these final days is a challenge within itself. Most people on death row wait years, and sometimes decades, to reach this moment they've been fighting against and appealing at every turn. The average time spent on death row is 20 years. That's a long time to be a dead man walking.
Literally.
A prisoner usually knows 60 days in advance of a pending order to fulfill the execution. During this time, petitions get started to achieve clemency, and these acts are often done by activists who oppose the death penalty. There have even been cases where criminals have rejected such acts, instead opted to see their death sentence to term. A good example of this is Scott Dozier, who waived his appeal rights after being on death row for 10 years and told the judge he was ready to die.
Can you help people understand why so badly you want to die?
It isn't that I want to die. It's that I'd rather be dead than do this.
Bro, that's crazy, cause like, do y'all hear his voice? Like, this man sounds mad normal. Like, whatever normal sounds like, that's what it sounds like to me, normal, you feel me? And this nigga in prison with the death sentence. That goes to show, man, you can't really trust people like that, bro. You gotta stay true to yourself. Stay to yourself. Lock in. Not everybody's your friend. Not everybody buddy. And remember that. Remember, if nobody told you that, remember I told you that, bro. Not everybody's your friend. You feel me? Humans are the biggest competitors. Remember that.
In a straightforward legal action, you spend millions of dollars cramming the death penalty down my throat, spend $1 million on the death chamber,
Damn.
and millions to hundreds of thousands avoiding using it and carrying out a lawful, though dubious sentence. And all to amount to extended and vast and necessary cruel and unusual circumstances.
You sound smart as hell.
We speak so much about the final moments and the build-up to those final moments, but the build-up can be decades for death row inmates. Decades of fighting to live, even if living means living in prison for the remainder of their lives. It would be insincere to say that every criminal treats their fate on death row the same. While Scott Dozier is fighting to die, many are fighting to live. A common challenge states are now facing is running out of lethal injections to carry out executions.
Nevada has more than 70 men on death
How
row,
do you
but they
even
haven't
make
executed anybody for more than 12 years.
lethal?
So when Dozier volunteered...
My fault, bro. I had to pause it, bro. Sometimes I be talking while these niggas talking. That should be messing me up. But yeah, how do they even get lethal injections? Like, what is that even made of? Like, what are they injecting them with type shit? If y'all know, let me know.
In 2016, it sent the state into a tailspin because they didn't actually have a way to execute him.
With the death penalty facing more and more scrutiny as time has gone on, drug manufacturers have distanced themselves from the practice. And this has left states figuring out how to move ahead with future executions. And that means looking to the past.
The end of the death penalty in America is on the horizon.
Not here. Here in South Carolina, at their death row, they're expanding. They're building a firing squad.
This might seem like one state, so why make it seem like it's happening everywhere? Because the floodgates have now been opened. States not looking to get rid of the death penalty will find a way to keep it going until the practice itself is executed. Another method that is being looked at intensely, using a drug that's killed hundreds of thousands of Americans long far outside the walls of prison, fentanyl. Other states are attempting to create
That's
a source
what they be using. That's that's a lethal injection.
Lethal injections. This hasn't gone well thus far, however.
Oklahoma was testing a new, secretly sourced combination of drugs. After 7 minutes, in the words of the state's prison director,
there was some concern at that time that the drugs were not having the effect.
Concerns indeed. Officials say the vein in Lockett's arm that was taking the poison exploded.
This was a horrible thing to witness. One of the things he said was something's wrong. He said man at one point. He kept trying to raise up.
The days leading up to the final 24 hours. For the week before an execution, everything is relatively normal. Life goes on as nothing has changed. The biggest difference is the gnawing feeling of death hanging over an inmate like a dark cloud. Considering all that they know about executions and how they can go wrong, or just out of fear of dying, this is a tumultuous time for anybody on death row. Some prisoners never stop fighting against their impending death, looking for any potential opening to halt the order, or at least delay it until they can figure out their next move. They can rely on the workings of their family or activists to try and ensure it doesn't happen. But this is not something to hinge all hope on. In some rare cases, death row inmates are actually interviewed by local broadcasters or even national news, depending on the notoriety of the criminal. Ted Bundy is a famous example of a criminal who got an extensive interview before his death, but he's not alone. The 1994 Oklahoma City bomber, Timothy McVeigh, also went on the record for an interview.
Humans, like, do y'all see what I be talking about? When I say humans just be blowing me, like, it blow, like, look, like, niggas be blowing up shit, niggas be murdering niggas be shooting at random niggas they never even seen, like, god dang, and this is America. Shit makes feel like we in Iraq or, like, some, I don't know, but not America, bro. If y'all are foreigners, bro, I advise y'all to stay where y'all at, you feel me? Because America not all that, but it's pretty good, you feel me? But it ain't all that. Yeah.
That this difficult period of time extends far beyond the walls of the prison holding the death row inmate. Their families, friends, victims' families, even state officials are feeling some form of effects because of the pending execution. From the emotional stress of knowing you're about to lose a loved one, regardless of their crime, to the planning and preparation needed to be taken by the state, this is an intense time for anyone close to the matter to endure. It's only as the final 24 hours approach that things get really serious, and the feelings of desperation and despair turn into solemn sadness.
I just realized the window open. I might hear the background sounds. Let me close this shit. Alright, I'm back.
4 hours, 8 p.m. Come nightfall, on the day before the execution, the prisoner facing death is taken from the prison and transported to the death house. Upon arrival, they ensure that the inmate isn't carrying anything that could help him either escape or cause himself any harm. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that tensions are high amongst everyone during these final hours. It is in no way a cheerful event. Upon arriving at the death house, there's an eerie moment of lingering, as the prisoner looks at the world they'll never see again as they await their death in their heavily guarded facility.
Imagine that feeling. Imagine that feeling knowing that you finna die, bro. Like, you're guaranteed finna die today. That's crazy.
The prisoner searched and booked in, They're now on death watch. They're put in a cell close to the execution chamber. They remain in their cell, alone, but constantly under surveillance. They're not treated exactly like they would have been in a standard prison. It's slightly more accommodating. Well, as accommodating as it can be, given the circumstances. The cells have been noted as usually being far nicer than the cells they're used to, whether it's because they're cleaner, have more private amenities, or a combination of the various elements. It's a far better place to spend your last days. But unfortunately, it's not where any of these prisoners would like to spend their final days.
I know I wouldn't give a fuck about a better looking prison bed.
It is contained. There is a shower and a sink and a toilet and a desk. Access immediately right outside to a phone.
It's a difficult time for a prisoner to endure, but most of the time, sleeping isn't really an option, considering the plethora of thoughts swirling around in their minds. So instead, they find any way imaginable to keep themselves busy. 4 a.m. The prisoner is woken up early. This time can vary from place to place, but it is pretty much the norm across the board. Today is the day of finality. A prisoner facing execution is given a chance to contact his family or see them in person, contact friends, and be visited by a chaplain. Now, there's a chance that there are petitions still actively being fought to keep a prisoner from facing their imminent death, so some might get lucky just moments before it's time. Just recently, on November 18th, 2021, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt called off the execution of Julius Jones a few hours before his intended execution. With all their calls made, and after seeing the people they'd hoped to see, they ended off with a visit from the chaplain. It's now that the really crushing weight of the end sets in. This time for a prisoner on death row can be
Dang, man, that boy
difficult.
look young, bro. I feel bad. I just can't imagine the feeling, bro. I just can't.
As options and hope dry up, it becomes clear that there's no avoiding a tragic end. They are left alone yet again, counting down the hours remaining. All the while, beyond the call, the guards are preparing for the execution by testing out the facilities to carry out the order, all while keeping in contact with the governor's office. 10:30 a.m. The prisoner is given lunch. It's nothing special, but they get to eat alone for a moment if they feel like even touching the food. After this, it's prep time for the prisoner to prepare for their demise. 3 p.m. While not as common anymore, when the electric chair was widely used, it required the prisoner to be shaved. Since the electric chair has been almost entirely retired in favor of a lethal dose, this isn't a common step anymore. The prisoner will be asked to get dressed in the clothes provided to them by the state. It will still be a prison uniform, but it will be far nicer than the ones they're used to. They allow the prisoner to take a shower and actually encourage it. 4:30 p.m. It's time to wrap it all up and enjoy a last meal. This would have been decided on well ahead of time. Since the beginning of the day, the chefs have been preparing this, so now it's time to enjoy it. The last meal can be almost anything the prisoner desires. There have been some exceptional examples of a prisoner's last meals, from over the top to incredibly simplistic. Still, it's all determined by the prisoner and the limitations of the state, province, or country. Some places take the guidelines to last meals a lot more seriously than others. For example, Oklahoma only gives a $15 budget, while Florida gives $40. This is just one example of a difference in allocating funds given to a particular prisoner on death row for their last meal. In addition, some states straight up don't even provide the last meal as an option due to constant abuse by previous prisoners. Famous examples of the different ranges of prisoners' last meal requests go from John Wayne Gacy, who ordered an exorbitant amount of food and drinks ranging from KFC to fried shrimp, to...
Did I just cheat? Wait, hold on, bro. I had to rewind.
Famous examples of the different ranges of prisoners' last meal requests go from John Wayne Gacy, who ordered an exorbitant...
Strawberries, fries, chicken and shrimp. The strawberries threw me off the shit. That shit look good. I ain't gonna lie. That junk look good.
Amount of food and drinks ranging from KFC to fried shrimp, to Eileen Wernos, who simply had a cup of coffee. Bitter farewell. 5 p.m.
They will start preparing him probably about 90 minutes before.
Preparation for a lethal injection means hooking up IV tubes. Then he'll be brought into the chamber, and witnesses are escorted in to view the execution. If there's no delay, he's set to die at 8 p.m.
Witnesses arrive for the execution. This can be anyone from family, friends, journalists, and even victims of the killer's crimes. They watch from a separate room that looks in through one-way glass. The prisoner is given a chance to have his final words uttered in front of whoever is listening. It's uncommon for an inmate on death row to cause much trouble when getting ready to die, but in the last week, They've gone through a series of emotions that have brought them to a point where they're fully aware of their fate and how there's no changing it. Some still resist, but this is uncommon. The execution is a relatively clean procedure that isn't eventful beyond the actual execution. The biggest issue when it comes to execution is more down to the execution itself. A malfunctioning chair or trouble administering the lethal dose. With such a stressful situation, the veins of prisoners sometimes hide away.
After the coroner pronounces the defendant dead, and there will be an autopsy done, the body will then be released to the family for proper burial.
You're not about to witness an execution. You're about to witness a murder. Stephen Michael Woods Jr., 2011.
I ain't gonna lie. That is true. That's definitely murder. But damn, bro, that shit, I had to take a deep breath, because just imagine, like I said, just imagine you got the death penalty, right? Okay, you thugging in that bitch. 20 years later, okay, they niggas get your ass up at like 4 in the morning talking about, okay, it's time. Imagine your heart just doo-doo, doo-doo. You feel me? But I know some motherfuckers in there don't give a fuck. They want to die. You feel what I'm saying? But it's your boy, Cashmernosweater. Y'all like, subscribe, send me videos to react to. You feel me? And yeah, I'm out. Gang.
We spot him, we got him, we shot him and trap it. That nigga is pussy, he don't wanna study. Nigga see the gang and started a panic. Fucked on a Kelly bitch, I full of plastic. I need me a bitch who just gon' keep it classic. Stun on y'all niggas can't have it. Stacking my money, should've been on that Maverick.